Southeastern 14, talking SEC football. I'm Chase Robinson. Glad you're joining us here on this video. We're going to dive into some Ole Miss Rebels football. We'll talk with Neal McCready with rebelgrove.com in just a second. But first, we got to remind you about our friends at BetOnline, your number one source for all of your summer sports this season, from MLB to golf to NBA to NHL. The latest stats, news, scores available to you and your favorite teams. Get the latest odds and lines, including the latest team matchups, player props, and odds on just about every sport out there. Head over to their website or use your mobile device to get in on the action. Bet online, where the game starts. Neal McCready, rebelgrove.com with us. Neal, appreciate your time. As I know, spring practice has wrapped up there at Ole Miss. We had a plethora of fun at the Grove games there for the spring game. But I mean, this has got to be one of the most anticipated seasons for Ole Miss football that we've seen in a long time.
Yeah, I mean, the only one since I've been on the beat. I can't speak to like my time before the beat because I don't know. But since I've been on the beat, probably the most anticipated since 2009, and this one's a lot more realistic in its anticipation. There was some anticipation in some of the freeze years, 15, 16. But those teams also had a lot of question marks. Really, this team, Chase, doesn't have a lot of question marks. 2009, I think looking back, those of us who covered it kind of thought that the hype was too much and was not really deserved. You know, look, because I know how people are and fans are. People hear you say this, and they're just waiting for a season to go bad, so they can go, "Oh, look, the homer said this." And so you're always hesitant in how you do this. Who knows, right? I mean, Ole Miss lost 2 games last year. They could have easily lost 4 or 5. This season, I mean, stuff happens. They could get injured. They could underachieve. Some things could not gel the way that you anticipate that they'll gel. And they could end up losing games and fall short of the playoff, and people will go, see, they couldn't handle it, or you guys overhyped them, or all that. And I'll just go guilty as charged on this one. I think this is a really good team that should make the playoffs. Doesn't mean that I'm predicting that they will make the playoffs, but I think it should make the playoffs. And then once you get there, it's, I don't know, tournaments and matchups, and could come down to a play here and a play there. And it's really difficult to predict that. But long answer to a really good question is this. In the SEC, the only team in the SEC that I think is just clearly better than Ole Miss is Georgia. And I think Georgia's better than Ole Miss. Doesn't mean Ole Miss can't beat Georgia, but I think Georgia's better than Ole Miss. Is Texas potentially better than Ole Miss? Certainly. Is Alabama? You bet. They're Alabama. Is Missouri? I kind of think so. But is Ole Miss potentially better than all 3 of those teams? No question in my mind.
When you look at the roster, when you look at what Lane Kiffin has brought in the offseason, what is it that would lead someone to believe, hey, this could be a playoff team? Is it the additions? Is it the guys, just some of the experience coming back? What is it that makes this a team that could be a playoff team?
So I'll kind of walk through it. It's a long answer, but it's a good question. And I think you start with the coach. He's been at Ole Miss now for 5 seasons, so there's a lot of continuity. You have the same quarterback back for the 3rd season. Jackson Dart has started 25 games at Ole Miss. In today's college football, that's a luxury that not most teams don't have. It's one of the reasons I think a lot of people love Texas, right? Quinn Ewers has been there a minute. He's got some starts under his belt. People like Georgia in large part because Carson Beck has starts under his belt. Same with Alabama and Jalen Milroe. But in this case, you've got a guy who started half a season at Southern Cal and 2 full seasons at Ole Miss as your starting quarterback. So I think that's a huge asset that most coaches would kill for. Ole Miss has it. I think it's important that it's his 3rd year in this system. Same offensive coordinator, same head coach. So they're going to be able to acclimate quickly. They lose Quinshon Judkins to Ohio State, but they've kind of replaced that. They brought in backs from other places. Henry Parrish Jr., who started his career at Ole Miss, went to Miami. He's back at Ole Miss. At some point in the season, they're hopeful they get Logan Diggs, the former LSU running back, healthy. He tore his ACL in the game on January 1st, but there's a expectation midway through the season that he'll be back and potentially back with fresh legs. So they'll be okay at running back. I think they're going to be significantly better up front. They have some veterans. They went out and added a couple of guys from Washington who are impact offensive linemen. They're going to have a deep wide receiver room. A potentially high impact wide receiver room. They have very high hopes for Deion Smith, the national JUCO kind of offensive player of the year. Now he's got to prove it, and he hasn't proven it yet, but the ceiling is very high for him. Trey Harris is back. Caden Priestcorn is back. They have a couple of young wide receivers, Aiden Williams, Caden Lee, that showed flashes last year that they think are ready to really emerge this year. So it's a deep receiver room. And then defensively, it's year 2 with Pete Golding. They went out and added a couple of high-impact linemen in Princely Umanmielen and Walter Nolan. That might not be done as we tape this on May the 1st. They might not be done in the transfer portal up front on defense. They added Chris Paul, who was a very efficient linebacker from Arkansas last season. He's at Ole Miss now. And then I think they're really good on the back end. And then Chase, frankly, and there's no SEC schedule that's easy. There's no such thing. But they don't play Alabama. They don't have to fool with Auburn and Hugh Freeze and all that stuff. No Texas A&M, and I think Texas A&M is going to be a good team. No Tennessee, who I think has a chance to be a good team. They don't play Missouri. They get Oklahoma at home. They get Georgia at home, and the toughest road game is at LSU. I mean, you kind of couldn't draw it up any better. Now, does that mean that they're going to go win 11 games? I'm not saying that. But on paper, on schedule, you look at it and go, well, the 3 hardest games, 2 are at home. 1's on the road. I have questions about LSU. It's winnable. It's losable because you can go to LSU and get beat. No question about it. Oklahoma could come here and win. Georgia could certainly come here and win. They haven't lost a regular season game in 3 years. You can't look at that game and go, oh, that's a dub. No, of course not. But you can make the playoff with 1 or 2 losses. They would have made the playoffs last season with 2 losses. So is it a playoff caliber roster? Yes. Is it a playoff caliber schedule? Absolutely. I mean, the schedule's a dream, man. I mean, other than, you'd love to trade Georgia for, I don't know, I guess Vanderbilt or something. I mean, sure, but it doesn't work like that. But the schedule's pretty favorable. I mean, again, no Texas, no Missouri, no Alabama, no Texas A&M. That's cake. I mean, it's still hard, but your road trips are, I know I'm giving you a really long answer. Your road trips are LSU, which is hard. Florida, they're not going to be a very good team, and they could be done by the time Ole Miss gets there in November. They go to Arkansas. Ole Miss has not fared well in Fayetteville, but goodness, I don't think this is going to be a good Arkansas team. And then at where do they go? The other game, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's not. At South Carolina, good team. But they lose Spencer Rattler. I don't think anybody looks at South Carolina and goes national title contender. Yeah. So you're going to have to go win games on the road in the SEC, and they'll have to win those. But those are all that's a doable slate.
Yeah, it really is. And I know when you talk Ole Miss, a lot of folks talk offense. I want to talk defense for a second. You mentioned Pete Golding, year 2. What differences did you see last year in the Ole Miss defense, and what needs to happen defensively this year to be able to compete and, again, go where a lot of Ole Miss fans, and I know the players and staff, want to go as well?
Yeah, I thought last season, despite being limited with some personnel, they were not very big up front. I thought they got the most out of it. I thought you could always tell that they had a good plan, that they executed the plan. As the season went on, I think they played with more confidence. I think they began to throw in a few more wrinkles. He's a very good defensive coach. He's very fundamentally sound. He has good plans. And last year they were limited again. Repetitive, but they were limited by personnel. This year, they've kind of addressed some of the personnel issues. I think they're going to be able to do more things. They took a massive jump in all the defensive metrics from 2022 to 2023. And if they take a jump like that, and again, that's an if they take a jump like that, they're going to be difficult. It's a talented defense. Jared Ivey's back. JJ Pegues is back. Trey Washington's back. They brought some people back that have played a lot of SEC snaps. They went out and brought people in who've played a lot of SEC snaps at Florida, at Arkansas, at Texas A&M, those kinds of places. Proven players who've played in this league, who know what it takes to win in this league.
So it's exciting stuff there for Ole Miss. And I know we mentioned offense earlier, but I want to hit on the quarterbacks. Jackson Dart, obviously, you mentioned talented quarterback. What does the quarterback room look like behind Jackson Dart, and how do the coaches feel about the quarterback room?
I think Walker Howard will be the backup, former LSU quarterback. This will be his second year in the system. I think he is the leader in the clubhouse to be the quarterback of the future. Did a lot of nice things last season, especially late, according to people who were inside the program in practice and things of that nature, to sort of begin to grow into that role. Very smart kid, talented, former 5-star recruit that everybody recruited out of high school. His dad played quarterback at LSU, Jamie, back in the day. And then behind him is Austin Simmons, who is a two-sport guy. A little unknown as we record this on May the 1st because he suffered an elbow injury pitching last weekend for Ole Miss in its series against Alabama. And so I don't know that everything has been determined about their course of surgery or whatnot for him. And if it has been determined, it hasn't been shared with us. And then, kind of what that means for him moving forward. Does he play two sports? Does he just focus on football? Is he going to miss part of a season? Well, I don't know those answers to those questions. And then they have a freshman, AJ Maddox, that's coming in. That I'm sure that the hope for him is that he doesn't see the field in year one. I think, and not because no slap at him, but that would mean something bad happened. Look, for any team, keeping a quarterback healthy is vital. It's vital for Ole Miss. Jackson Dart needs to play the whole season, but Howard could play, and I think Howard could play well. And then Simmons is an unknown at this point. But look, if they're playing for a title or something, one of the storylines will almost undoubtedly be that Jackson Dart had a special season.
Yeah. He is Neal McCready, rebelgrove.com. That's where you can get all your Ole Miss information. Neal, appreciate you coming on, talking some Ole Miss football with us. We'll have to do it again real soon, but appreciate your time today.
Chase, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you. Southeastern 14, we talk college football, SEC football year-round. Subscribe to our channel, and you can follow us on Twitter as well, at 14 Southeastern.